reviewing this Forclaz headlamp from Decathlon. So this is basically the cheapest headlamp you get from Decathlon. And it's not only the cheapest, but it's also, I would argue, the most practical. Why? Because it's so small. It also has this typical thing where you can rotate it up to 90 degrees, which is very nice if you go running and you actually want to see something below, or if you go onto a mountain and you want to see things more above, then this comes in very handy. And it's also, I just found it to be very rigid. So this means it doesn't just randomly pop back. So I actually had a headlight from Amazon before, and the mechanism was just not as good as this one. Therefore, whenever I had it out here, it just bounced back onto the previous iterations again and again and again. So let's actually take a look at the band itself. It's to this day very sturdy, and I mean, it's just very nice. In the back it actually has these classical things where you can, let's actually put out oh no, the intensity, the blur intensity is out already, but you can actually adjust the length of the whole band. And on the side it has this Forclaz. And in the front now, what actually is happening is that you have these different lights. So also one of the main selling points is that it charges via USB micro. Of course, it's not USB-C yet, because usually these types of things are not with USB-C yet, which is kind of a bummer. Sometimes you find these versions, and of course they are more expensive, which is also not nice. Nevertheless, let's actually switch it on. And also in the back you have this very nice thing that the band is just rubbed just here in the back. That's what I wanted to say. So now let's actually put it on, and the first thing you see is that it has these two lights in the front. These two lights in the front are actually red, and the second light is actually not red and is actually not on all the time, but nevertheless it switches on whenever you switch the light. There is this green light in the upper corner, which you kind of see. And now it's out again. So it actually comes in different modes, and this is something, the modes just are so very intuitive. And also when it comes to running, this especially helps, because sometimes it's dark out there, but nevertheless the moon actually shines. And when the moon actually shines, often you don't need the full light of a lamp, because then you, apart from the light of the lamp itself, you don't see anything anymore, because it's just so bright, and because the contrast is so high, that means that outside of the lamp, so outside of the light of the lamp, you just don't see anything anymore. And therefore I found this very soft red light to be just a very nice help for all these situations where you just run in between darkness and light, between day and night, and where you just need to add a little bit of light. That's very useful. Also, if you ever go onto a mountain hut, basically onto a hotel or wherever, or in a hostel, for example, you don't want to blend everybody with your light, but instead, if you just have something like this also can work, for example, for packing your backpack at 4 a.m. in the morning, because you actually want to go to a mountain and you before spend the night in a hostel. Also, I wanted to try this as a video light whenever I would have just a phone and also just this here, and it also just comes in very handy. I also already used it as a bike light, so basically if this is the bike thing, then I would just put it something like this onto the bike. I mean, I did it again, so basically this, and then on the other side I did the same thing again, but this also worked, and it was just a very nice bike light. Now the next thing is the next light, and now it's out again, because it recognizes if you basically put it on, and then it doesn't change to the next modes, whatever happens, but it actually only changes to the next modes if you switch it on and then change to the next modes, which is something that is just very intelligent. You could also call it intelligent design. So now that's basically the brightest mode. That's the main mode, and there is also a mode that is even brighter. So basically it has three modes. This red light mode, then it has a brighter white light mode, kind of bluish also, and then the third light is just even brighter. And this is something that comes in very handy, because it's like, oh yeah, I need this, and I need a little bit more, and I need a little bit more. And then after a while, if we just press it again, it doesn't switch to all the other modes again, but it just switches off. Just very intuitively designed. And also it was only I think, 10 or 15 euros. I had it for a few years at this point in time. It's still very nice in shape. I basically used it as the main light, apart from I just needed to sneeze. So apart from, I also have a Galaxy Watch on my wrist all the time. So basically, this kind of replaces many situations where I just need a light to go. For example, if you are in a hostel and you need to go to the bathroom and you don't want to put on the light. What also helps if you have a light on you at all times, and therefore what I often use is just I use the Galaxy Watch. If I now typed in the code correctly, then I can just use the torch function on this watch, and I can actually make it brighter, and that's just very helpful already. But for all these scenarios where you don't have a torch with you, it's also just very helpful to have a headlamp with you. Why a headlamp? Because, and I know I look ridiculous. By the way, I don't even need these glasses. I just wanted to see how you perceive me differently, kind of as an experiment. And now, ridiculous, I know. Nevertheless, it's very helpful to have your hands free, also for working in the dark, for example, or for doing workouts in the dark. If you go to a calisthenics station at night, it is very helpful to not have to have a torch in your hands, but to just have a headlamp. A headlamp is basically an automated light that's with you at all times, if you have it on you, and that's something that I found very helpful. I wished this headband would be in black, because I like to have all things black, but nevertheless it is red, and therefore I bought it, and I, at this point in time, didn't care so much about everything being black, and there is also another black version of this. And the nice thing now is, also, you can just put it in a pocket. There are versions out there which are just bigger, and this is one of the main downsides, because it's not so big, the battery doesn't last as long, I guess. So you have to charge it every now and then. And what I found is that if I put a rubber band on here and then I wrap it around like this, that I can just very easily store it in any pocket. And compare this size to the size of a normal headlamp, which is probably twice the size. It also just fits anywhere. It's just because it's so compact, you can take it wherever you basically want. And it also acts as a video light. For example, I could just replace this headlamp. I was basically searching for an all-in-one light solution, the most minimal light I could find, and the smallest light I could find that would fulfill all these functions I had and fulfill all the requirements I had. And let's just try it as a video light real quick. So I make out the main light, and now it's dark, and this is basically the red light now, and this is the first step above. Of course, the exposure is completely the same, because the exposure at this point in time is fixed. So now let's actually put it onto my phone, maybe a little bit from above, because that's also the light source previously was from above. So therefore, of course, it's very dark now. And the main reason why it is so dark is because the exposure was fixed. But if we now just take the exposure and actually don't have it basically so underexposed, then we can see it would also act as a video light. The problem, of course, is that the softbox functionality is not really there. So instead, what you can do in these scenarios, you could just direct it against something that actually reflects light, like this here, and then you would have a video light that is kind of good. Of course, it's not as good as the light panel I have, the LED panel I have above. Nevertheless, it acts, I would say, as a light that is okay. You could also switch to the middle mode again, and to let it point it directly at you, and therefore you would also have a very nice video light. That's the final conclusion of this review of this headlamp, Forclaz headlamp you get at Decathlon.